Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Patience. So today we are going to be making this beautiful tiered ruffle maxi skirt. So before we get started, kindly click the subscribe button. If you have done that, let's get into it. So I'll be using this crepe fabric for this tutorial, and this is 4.5 yards, and I'll be drafting the first tier on this pattern paper. So the full length of this skirt is going to be 43 inches. So I'll be adding 2 inches on the third tier, that is 45 inches for hemming allowance. So remember, it's going to be first tier, second tier, and third tier. So I'll be drafting the first tier on this pattern paper. So to get my first tier, I'm going to place my measuring tape from the waist, where I want my skirt to be, to my lower butt. I'm going to measure from my waist to my lower butt, and what I have is 12 inches, and I'll be adding a waistband of 1 or 1.5 inches. So this is my waistline. So my waist to hip measurement is 9 inches. So I will be using a band of 1.5 or 2 inches, but I will not take it out from my waist to hip measurement. So if you like, you can take it out. You can take the band measurement from the waist to hip, but I'll be marking out the 9 inches. And I'll be using 1/2 inch anyway on the waist to join it to the band. So this is my hip line. So the full length of this first tier, like I said, is 12 inches. So I measured from my waist to my under butt, that is 12 inches. But I'll be adding 1/2 inch to this 12 inches that I'll use to join to the second tier of this skirt. So I'll mark 12.5 inches. So I want this to be a dartless skirt. So, but if you like, if you want to add a dart, you can mark your nipple to nipple measurement on this part, but I will leave it as a dartless skirt. So right now I'm going to mark my waist circumference divided by 4, that is 9 inches. And then I'll add 1 inch for sewing allowance. So after doing that, on the waistline, I'll mark my waist circumference divided by 4, that is 11 inches, but I'll be adding 1/2 inch for ease. You don't have to do that anyway. So I just want the waist area to be a bit free, so I'll add 1/2 inch for ease and 1 inch for side seam allowance. So on this line, that is the full length of the first tier, I'll add 1 inch for ease on my hip circumference, that is 12 inches, and I'll add 1 inch for side seam allowance. I'll connect the points this way and then I'll cut it out. So I'll use this as a pattern to cut out the back piece, and on the back piece I will not be adding a zipper allowance because my zip is going to be on the side of the skirt. So I'll use the 1 inch for side seam allowance for zipper allowance. So I'll fold it this way, and that is my zipper allowance, and I'll stitch on the other side seam. So I'll go ahead and cut this out on my fabric. I've done that. And this is it. So what I'll do next is to place good sides together this way. Remember, they are equal. So, and I'll pin down one side of the side seam. My zip is going to be on the left side, so I'm just going to mark where my zip will stop. So I'll minus 2 inch for my band, and I'll mark 8 inches where my zip will stop. So I'm going to place my zip on this part. So I'll leave it opened, and I'll sew by 1 inch from this 8 inch downwards. So I've done that, as you can see, and I left this part open for my zipper allowance. So I'll be attaching the band before I attach the zip. So I've gone ahead to cut out the band, and I ironed a hairstay on the band, and the length of the band is 5 inches. I folded both sides by 1/2 inch, that is 1/2 inch on both sides, and I fold it again and ironed it. So the length is now 2 inches. So the width of the band is my waist circumference plus 2 inches, that is 38 inches. That is the 2 inches for zipper allowance, that's side seam allowance. So I'm just going to place good sides together this way, starting from the 1 inch for side seam allowance. So I'll place good sides together and I'll pin down one of the 1/2 inch I folded. Pin it down all through. So after doing that, I'm going to top stitch the other 1/2 inch. I'll push in the raw edges and top stitch. So what I'm going to do is I'll pin it down first because I'll be sewing from the good side of the fabric. So I'll pin it down first and stitch. So I've done that, and this is how it came out. Now I'll be attaching my zip. So I actually wanted to attach my zip before I attach the band, and I totally forgot. So no problem, I'm just going to attach the zip like that. So I'll be using this other method. So if you like, you can attach your zip first before you attach the band, that way to come out very neat. So I'm just going to turn it to the wrong side this way, and I'm going to place the right side of the zip and the right side of the fabric together this way. And I'll make sure this part, that is the top stop, is at the edge of the band, and I'll pin it down on the 1 inch for zipper allowance, and I'll sew it. So I'll make sure this band area are aligned, and after I attach the zip, I'm going to open it this way, and from the top stop I'll fold in the excess zip this way and cover it with the band. So I'll pin it down. I'll do the same thing on the other side. After doing that, I'm going to secure it with a stitch of like 1/2 inch. So I'll go and do that and come back and show you. I've done that, as you can see, and I secure it with a little stitch. So that is it, as you can see. So after doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is to attach the second tier of the skirt. So the full length of the skirt is 43 inches. Now I'll minus the 12 inches for the first tier. That is 43 minus 12 inches. That will give me 31 inches. And I'll divide the 31 inches into 2 for the second and the third tier. But I'll be using 15 inches for the second tier and 16 inches for the third tier. Also, for the second tier, the width I'm using is my hip measurement times 3, and for the third tier is my hip measurement times 5. Now for the second tier, this is 16 inches, so I'll use 1/2 inch to join to the third tier, and I'll use 1/2 inch to join to the first tier. So I'll be left with 15 inches, and the width is 135 inches. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'll use the longest stitch on my sewing machine to sew on 1/2 inch all through this 135 inches. So now if you have a gathering foot, you can use it. So I'll go and do that and come back and show you. So I've done that. So, and I made sure it is up to 48 inches. So after gathering it, I stitched on the gathers to secure it, and I left 1/2 inch on both sides that I'll use to join it. So I'll place good sides together this way, and I'll join it by the 1/2 inch. I've done that. As you can see, I've joined the side, and this is how it came out. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to join the first and the second tier together. So I'm just going to place it this way, and I'll flip the second tier this way. That way good sides are together. So I'm going to pin down the stitched area, align it, and I'm going to pin it down all through. So after doing that, I'm going to sew on 1/2 inch all through. So I've done that. I've joined the second tier, and this is how it came out. So the next thing I'm going to do is to cut out the third tier. So this is 18.5 inches. So remember, I'm going to use 16 inches for the third tier. So the remaining 2.5 inches, I'll use 2 inches to hem the lower part of the third tier, and then I'll use 1/2 inch to join to the second tier. So this is the third tier, and the width is my hip measurement times 5 inches. That is 225 inches. So I'll use the longest stitch on my sewing machine to sew on 1/2 inch all through the 225 inches, and I'll gather it. So I've done that, and I ensure it is up to 135 inches. And I also left 1/2 inch on both sides that I'll use to join it. So I'll sew on the 1/2 inch. So I've done that. I've joined the 1/2 inch, as you can see. So the next thing I am going to do is to join the third tier. So I'll place good sides this way, and I'll align this area I joined, and I'll pin it down all through and sew by 1/2 inch. So I have done that, and it came out really beautiful. As you can see, it is really easy to make, and I have also hemmed the lower part with the 2 inches for hemming allowance. So if you find this helpful in any way, kindly give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to click on the subscribe button and also turn on the notification bell to be updated when I upload a new video. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.